To goon or not to goon? That is the question. Do you want to experience sexual pleasure in a way that destroys your brain? Or do you want to learn how to do it in a way where you can experience sustained sexual pleasure for a long period of time, but actually benefit from it, actually increase your vitality, your health, and your enjoyment of life from it? We're going to be diving into this phenomenon of gooning, which is essentially a form of edging where you're experiencing maximum sexual stimulation, arousal, and pleasure for hours at a time potentially. And we're going to talk about why this has a lot of destructive effects and how you can replace it with something that is much more beneficial for you. And make sure you stay until the end because I'm going to be sharing a very specific technique that dramatically transforms your experience of sexual pleasure in a way that builds your vitality and creativity as well. I'm Jonathan White, and I've helped thousands of men from around the world learn to master their sexual energy and manifest their ideal life. Make sure you get my free ebook that contains 3 exercises to achieve legendary sexual stamina and good ejaculation control. There's a link in the video description. Hit subscribe to stay notified when I drop new content. Let's talk about something that has been really exploding online, but a lot of people are not really aware of the dangers and in the deeper implications that this has. And I'm talking about gooning, okay? You can do a little research on your own. This is something that's become a trending online thing, you know, from all kinds of memes, even songs. It's been everywhere on social media. Here's the thing, guys. I kind of live in a cave, okay? I'm very isolated from the world in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? I do my Qigong and meditation for hours a day. I go to the gym. I go spend time in nature. I do my martial arts. You know, I hang out with friends. I teach sexual kung fu. Like, that's my life, okay? And the majority of the time I can say that I'm, you know, very blissfully ignorant about a lot of the things happening in the world. But recently I was having a conversation with a friend who was telling me like, dude, you got to talk about this gooning thing. And I was like, what is this? And as I start looking into it, I'm like, wow, this is an interesting phenomena. So gooning is sort of an extreme version of masturbation. And basically what happens is people are watching porn, but often they have like multiple porn screens pulled up. The whole thing here is like, how much stimulation can I give myself as possible? So it's like all this visual stimulation. They have their goon cave where it's a space set up specifically to enhance the gooning experience, okay? So the idea is to stay at the highest point of arousal possible for as long as you can, like without ejaculating, just like sustaining that to where just like one more, you know, little touch of your penis is just like, you know, just a heightened state of glowing pleasure. And I get it. Like, who doesn't want to experience high levels of sexual pleasure? In some ways, it's not too different than the goals of Tantra and Taoist sexual practices, which is like sustaining the enjoyment of sex as long as possible in a beneficial way. But where the two paths strongly diverge is that gooning is essentially about overstimulation and maxing out your dopamine receptors. I'll talk about that momentarily, about how this is actually damaging your brain. The difference between this and the sexual kung fu approach, you know, from Tantra, Taoist sexual practices, is that the sexual kung fu approach is about maximizing your sustainable experience of pleasure so that you don't overload your dopamine receptors. And instead of all this external stimulation, you're going more into your internal experience. And so from my reading of people's gooning experiences, like the common theme here is that they're trying to get into this state of just absolutely losing themselves in pleasure, like having no sense of time or space, just completely gone in this gooning experience. And one of the things that's happening is you're getting so much of a dopamine release that it's just this incredible euphoria. It's like why people take like MDMA or things like that, is to just like max out your blissful feelings. But here's the thing. There is some costs to this type of experience because this intense pleasure comes with trade-offs, comes with some significant trade-offs. So let's talk about the dopamine circuit for a moment here. Dopamine, it's the pleasure chemical that's released from your brain. This chemical is normally supposed to be released because we've actually achieved something. So back before there was technology, there wasn't all these things that hijack your dopamine circuit. So you had to work for it. You know, it's like you're a farmer, you go out and you do a hard day's work. You got your crops grown, you harvest them and you sell them and you make some money from it. Like you get a dopamine hit. Or maybe more practical is like you go to the gym and you add one more rep than you did in your last workout. It's like, yes, I did it. Hell yeah. Anything that you do that gives you the sense of like accomplishment gives you a dopamine release. And so naturally, dopamine, it's a beneficial thing. It creates our behavioral patterns. The issue with gooning and like just watching porn on itself overwhelms your dopamine receptors. It's like it's giving you hit after hit. Every time you look at a video, you're getting a hit of dopamine, especially when you pull up a new video, it just fries your dopamine receptors. And what happens here, the analogy is of, if you think of this dopamine circuit as like music that's playing. By gooning, you're hovering right at the edge of ejaculation for hours and hours. You're cranking that music, so to speak, to maximum volume and it's just blaring and it drowns out everything else because it's so loud. At first, it's like, yeah, this is great, loud music, it's just blah, I'm feeling it, I'm 100% in it. The next day, your ears are ringing and you're like, oh, this is boring, like it's not cranked up to a 12. Because that's what you've attuned yourself to, is like, unless it's that loud, nothing else is going to satisfy you. So this is the danger in this type of experience, is to where nothing else really feels the same. When you've overstimulated your system that much, you become numb essentially. Anything else is just like not satisfying. And this happens with people's sexual experiences. Maybe the closest I've come to experience gooning in my life, so I grew up in the 90s, okay? And we had dial-up internet. I lived out in the country, small town. Well, actually this was like early 2000s when I was, of age to start masturbating and looking at porn and things. Whenever my parents would leave town, it was like a jerk-off fest, okay? I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'd be on the family computer, on porn sites, which again, is like dial-up internet. It was like 5-second pixelated clips and just images. That's what I had back in the day. I didn't have high definition streaming porn. I would just be like on these porn sites and I'd just be like, masturbating, and I would just be edging for hours because I wanted the experience to last. I knew if I just ejaculated, it'd be over. So it was like, okay, well, how long can we sustain this for? So I would just be right at the edge of ejaculating. What I would find is that after these jerk off fests, I would feel just pretty low the next few days, like for a while. Thinking back on it now, this is when I started to develop things like depression, anxiety. My hormonal health was, even as a teenager, like, yeah, I'm sure I had decent testosterone levels, but like my body didn't quite develop properly. Like I was super scrawny, super underweight. I was just obviously very, very depleted at that time. And my mental health took a very, very strong decline. So this is the price you pay from gooning, is it's hard to enjoy things after that. You know what I mean? You've cranked everything up to 11. From a scale of 1 to 10, you're on an 11. So nothing else really satisfies you. And this is also a huge issue men run into in relationships, is they're actually with a real life person, but it's not as intense and stimulating as being able to watch 10 different women on a porn video at once, or one after the other, whatever. And when you're actually with a real life person, you can't get it up, or you can't keep it up. This is called porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So I'm gonna talk about a more beneficial way you can approach your sexual experience, because something people always ask me about is edging. Is edging good, is it bad? And I'm gonna talk about a way you can go about it that actually is beneficial for you. The final thing I wanna say about this is that I think that this phenomenon of gooning represents a deeper issue that's surfacing in our world. Sex is becoming less and less common. Actual human beings having sex with each other is dropping significantly. And I think that there's many reasons for this. There's a lot of confusion about relationships and gender and polarity. Like, it's a mess. It's a complete goddamn mess, the situation that the world is in. Social media and things have only made the issue worse, in my opinion and perspective. This just represents a deeper issue in that people aren't having sex in the way they were before, so now they're trying to find ways to make up for it. The potential future of humanity of sex is like being alone in your goon cave, strapped into a VR set, and like that's it. That's okay. That's the future of humanity. Well, I think it's a pretty dark, depraved, isolated, and depressed future. Good mental health does not come from someone who their only sexual experience is of porn and just frantically edging for hours at a time. I don't think that is a person who tends to have good mental health. And if you're struggling with porn addiction, with ejaculatory masturbation addiction, I feel for you. I was there myself, but know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, okay? It's really about finding something that fulfills you and fills you up. That isn't an addiction. It isn't this addictive outlet. And I think that's what people truly are missing in this modern age, is purpose. Personally, what gives me purpose is being able to help others. Because I've been through a lot of darkness in my life. I've been through a lot of struggle. I've been through addiction and pain. No one knows these things more than I do. And having found a way through it, what really helped me was ancient philosophy and practice. The Tao, yoga, Chinese medicine, Qigong, meditation. These things dramatically changed my life and completely replaced all of my addictions. My porn addiction was replaced by a healthy experience of sexuality, both with myself and with my partner. Smoking weed, drinking alcohol, this became replaced with Qigong and meditation. Sitting at home, sitting in depression and self-loathing, I replaced with going to the gym, lifting weights. So now let's talk about what I would consider to be a beneficial version of edging. There's a lot of parallels with gooning, we could say, because one of the aims is to sustain this experience of heightened pleasure. But where it differs is that we're not going for absolute overstimulation. We're going for more of a resensitizing ourselves. Because here's the thing, you want to incorporate body awareness into this. The idea with this is that you stay relaxed. You breathe deeply and you keep your body, especially your pelvic floor, relaxed. And I know right away it's like, oh, this sounds boring, maybe potentially for some people. But hear me out. This is a process that's going to resensitize you so that instead of needing more and more volume cranked to feel anything, you become so sensitive that even just a little whisper like sends you into full body orgasm, all right? And maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it can literally become true when you really open yourself up. The other difference with this approach is that high dopamine activities like edging to porn, it starts to really activate your sympathetic nervous system, which creates a tension response. And when that becomes your primary experience of sex or sexual pleasure, that becomes locked into your system. So this is also something that starts to create premature ejaculation. And performance anxiety is you associate arousal with being in a sympathetic fight or flight state, meaning that adrenaline's released into your body, cortisol's released, you feel nervous, you feel tense, and the ejaculation's a component of this. So what we want to do in this healthy edging is to reestablish a parasympathetic based experience of sexual pleasure, which just means you're relaxed. You're not in a state of like, you're relaxed. And primarily being in the parasympathetic nervous system, even if you're experiencing like long sessions of sexual pleasure, when you're not going up to like the point right before ejaculation, you're hovering at like 70 or 80%, you can stay in that parasympathetic circuit, which means that there's not going to be this huge flood of dopamine into your system so that you can actually make this a activity that you do regularly, and then you still enjoy everything else in life. In fact, the other parts of your life become even more enjoyable because connecting with your sexual energy consciously, meditatively, instead of it being a distraction like from visual stimulation, outside things, when it's you within your body, fully immersing in it, it really opens you up. It really resensitizes you, and everything that you do in your life becomes more rich. Okay, now your practical instructions for a beneficial edging practice. We'll call this relaxed edging, is you breathe from your lower belly. Don't use porn, no external stimulation. And there will be a process of rewiring yourself just to experience arousal as an internal experience rather than a result of something that's happening externally. So you breathe deeply, you keep your pelvic floor relaxed. Notice if it starts to tense up. You don't want to have your pelvic floor tensing up because this is, again, bringing you into a tension response, and it's going to bring you to that edge of ejaculation. You don't want to hover at that edge. You want to relax this tension response, because when you do that, you'll be able to stay at a sustainable level of pleasure and arousal without getting into that range where it's going towards complete edging mode, just tension and excessive dopamine release. That's basically it, is you move slowly. Build your arousal slowly. Don't just jackhammer away. Think of it more as a massage of your body. Breathe fully and deeply. Make sound, move your body. Keep your pelvic floor relaxed. And when you start to find yourself tensing up, holding your breath, etc., it means that you've kind of lost your focus, and come back into it. Ground, take a breath, relax, ground yourself. So this has many benefits. Number one, I truly believe that sexual pleasure is important for our health, our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health. But how you do it, sexual pleasure can be done in a way that's either harmful or beneficial. And this is the beneficial way. I also feel that sexual activity exercises your endocrine system. And when you do it in this way without depleting it from excessive dopamine release, or without ejaculating, at least not ejaculating every time, it stimulates your endocrine system, which keeps you young. Plus, this is going to teach you, for men, it's going to teach you how to control your ejaculation, because doing this exact process is going to give you really good ejaculation control. It's all about staying relaxed and being aware of what's happening in your mind and your body. You're going to deepen your experience of pleasure and even set yourself on the road towards experiencing non-ejaculatory orgasms, which, I've talked about in other videos. So this is actually going to balance out your nervous system as well, because a sexual experience dominant with excessive dopamine release, it tends to really imbalance your brain chemistry. You get stuck in anxiety, depression, insomnia, even all kinds of things. Whereas overcoming the addiction to porn and overstimulation sexually, transitioning into an embodied sexual experience like this, you're going to have a better mood, you're going to have more confidence, you're just going to feel better just being in a body, being alive, and less likely to need these addictive things just to make you feel something. And so remember, the difference between beneficial edging and harmful edging or gooning is that one is really filled with tension and overstimulation, overloading your brain's chemistry and locking your body into a tension response, activating your sympathetic nervous system. Whereas the beneficial edging is using a relaxation response in your body. It's actually putting you into a deep meditative state. There's no sharp dopamine releases, and you're actually exercising your endocrine glands, promoting sexual vitality and hormone levels. So what I recommend you do now is watch a video I made about non-ejaculatory orgasms. That's another game changer on this road to sexual mastery. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your thoughts are about this gooning phenomenon in the comments below, or if you have any questions about what I said in this video. Make sure you give this video a like, hit subscribe. Have a great day, my friend. Wishing you the best on your journey.